Hello, everyone, and welcome
Hello.
to today's wonderful and interesting discussion about dating while Black. I have some very special people here with me. We were already having the panel discussion before it even started. We are ready. We are ready to talk about this. One, because it's such an important topic because we are connective. We are connected beings. We long to be connected. We might have some internal struggle about our connection because of our experiences. There is definitely a part of us that longs to be connected and to share our life with someone. And the journey to find our someone can be very challenging, especially for people who are melanated. And
Hmm.
so we wanted to have this conversation, not to exclude any other people, but just to have this conversation because it is unique. It's unique to our experience. There are so many factors for people who are Black, and that it really affects and impacts how we find our person, how we interact with each other. So I have two special guests that I'm so excited to have with us. We have Sonia Gary, who is a nurse and a relationship coach. And we also have Kelvin Pace, who is a therapist and a sex therapist. You heard me correctly. Yes, a sex therapist. I want to have them introduce themselves a little bit, tell them a little bit about themselves. And we'll start with ladies first. Sonia, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. And Alicia, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you dearly. I'm honored to be here. My name is Sonia Gary, and I am a registered nurse, a clinical educator, and I was a clinical director. And I decided to pursue a full time position. A full-time career, I should say, in relationship coaching. I really say I just do life coaching, but I do specialize in relationships, and I specialize in that relationship that you have with yourself. Because if you have a healthy relationship with you, it makes it easier for you to have a healthy relationship with others. I focus on self love and accountability and things of that sort. So that is me and a little bit about myself. And I've been in healthcare for over 18 years in various aspects of nursing, I should say. I've been a nurse for 18 years. I've been healthcare for 25. So that's a little bit about
Wow.
me.
You don't
Yeah.
look like you've done anything for 25 years, but thank you so
Thank,
Yeah.
for
thank you.
coming. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelvin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Alicia, for having me on.
Yes.
I'm Kelvin Pace. I'm a licensed professional counselor and also an ASEX certified sex therapist. And just to give a little bit idea what ASECT is the American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. And so I was certified in 2017, and at that point, there was only 4 African American men that are ASEX certified sex therapists. There's total of 5 now.
Wow.
So I've been a therapist since 2009. I own a small private practice where I help folks with relationship issues and sexual issues, really coming from the field of helping us communicate better with each other. So
Mhm.
that's me.
I'm so excited. Okay. I can't. I've been thinking about this ever since we put this together because it's such an important conversation. It truly is. And I think conversation is how can be a catalyst for us to create some curiosity.
Mhm.
And for and hopefully where curiosity is, then we can lean in and see some growth. So let's just ask, why is it so difficult to date while you're Black? Why is it so challenging? Sonia, why is it so challenging?
Ooh, this question can be this live all by
Yes. Yes. Why is it
we
such a
can sit
headache?
right here. It's gonna take a minute. I think there's a combination. I think there is not great examples of relationships. I think
Mm.
there's a
Mm-hmm.
generational component to it,
Mm-hmm.
generational traumas, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit. I think there is a lack of accountability, a lack of self awareness, a lack
Mm.
of the ability to have healthy conversations. I think all of those together play. But I really think that generational trauma and how we've learned to relate to one another is one of the biggest components to us having
Oh,
challenges dating while Black.
yeah. You said lack of accountability. Say
Yeah.
more about that.
Ooh,
Uh,
baby. You're trying to get me
mm-hmm.
in trouble already.
Oh man.
I, I
I
said it though.
you said it, but I really feel like it is truly the basis of maintaining a healthy relationship. If there's no accountability, then there's like no respect, there's no boundaries. It's just people hearts are out there and they just get stumped on and nobody takes accountability for it. It's like this me. So you just gotta so say more about that accountability piece and what you mean by that. Exactly.
I mean, exactly what you said. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's this component. A lot of times, and you guys know, being therapists, people will come to you asking for help with their partner, but it's all their partner, and they don't realize the role that they play.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize how their behavior may impact a person, and while we are responsible for ourselves, how we react and what we do, what we choose to do, because your reaction is always a choice. A lot of times we put that on the partner. Well, I wouldn't do it if you wouldn't. I wouldn't be if you wouldn't. So it's just pointing a finger. But if you say, you know what, I've made a decision. For example, if you keep picking the same type of guy, you're picking the same type of guy. It's not that every guy is doing you wrong. You're picking this kind of guy. So let's find out why you
Okay.
have this trend of picking the same person. There's some accountability there because you're making choices.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the choices we have to take accountability. What I'm hearing you say is we have to take accountability for the choices that we make about the person we choose to
Yes,
connect with.
You just made
absolutely.
And go
you just made
ahead.
some people mad.
I know.
I know. I was
I
like,
know.
I was trying to like be soft with it. Like we have to take some accountability, but we do. We do have to take
Mhm.
accountability for that, and so take inventory.
Mhm.
Because even with what I have noticed, I will ask someone like, "So, tell me what you want in a healthy relationship," and I'm like, "Oh." Or what makes like a healthy relation? What does that look like for you? Like,
Mhm.
if you could wave a magic wand, let's not talk about the person you're with. Let's just say,
Right.
in any relationship here, what does that look like to be healthy? And they are like, oh, I never thought about that. And I think that's a key component to the choice factor that you're talking about of what criteria what is a person who I'm looking to connect with? What do they have to have? What do they have to embody? What do I need to see? What do I need to feel to know that this person is the right person for me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And your why. Why are you choosing these people? You know?
Mhm.
And then the other part of that accountability is how are you showing up in these relationships? The common denominator is you. So how are you showing up
Oh
in these
gosh.
reactions? So we're gonna have to address that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
how am I? Yes, Kelvin.
Yeah, when I'm working with folks that are experiencing infidelity in their relationships, when they're in crisis mode, they really don't want to hear that. And but that's the one of the number one questions that I ask is, what was your role in this relationship malfunction? What was going
Hmm.
on from the beginning, from us choosing our partners, but also what stopped us from speaking up when our boundaries were being violated? So I think why it's difficult to date in this age, especially being Black, is we weren't really taught what's the difference between a rule and a boundary. They're two different
Mm.
things.
That's rich. Mm-hmm.
Two different
Mm-hmm.
things. And our language right now is we use boundaries so loosely and so freely where we don't really know what they are. So one of the issues is, one, we're responsible for our own boundaries. Nobody can secure our boundaries except for us. And us as people, we like the easy way out. And if the easy way is for me to violate your boundaries, then I'm going to do it, whether it's maliciously or unintentionally, right? But if I stick with my boundaries, there's no way they can be violated. If I say no, this is where I draw the line, and I'm not going to let my boundaries be violated, I think that is an important piece of relationships that we don't really grasp.
Oh, you're saying so much. Okay. So the difference between rule and boundary, I
Hmm.
think that is you're opening like a can of worms with that just
Hmm.
for black families. Or and I
Yeah.
don't want to speak right loosely because I know there, we are not a monolith and not every black person has the same experience. I do know that my experience with working with black families and even my experience in life experiences that there tends to be very harsh and authoritative
Hmm.
parenting that is that
Hmm.
that and that is kind of going into that generational trauma piece that we'll talk about. And so with that rule factor being so heavy, don't do this, don't do that, don't do there definitely can be like that inner child that's saying, okay, if my
Hmm.
boundaries are being crossed, I'm not supposed to speak, I'm not supposed to, and so there could be like this internal struggle of, to say, okay, this is a rule and okay, this is a boundary, right?
Yeah.
And to say, love without respect is abuse, and to
Hmm.
say I need to speak up for myself. That's huge. And then you also talked about how we use boundaries so loosely. Uh,
Yeah.
we talk about them boundaries we do, but I think we don't do a lot of teaching around boundaries. We
Hmm.
say it, set your boundaries, set your boundaries, set your boundaries, but don't talk about like what that looks like and
Yeah.
and how we guard our boundaries.
Yeah. I break it down to the simplest place. I find myself as a very simple person, and I like things color by numbers. Don't give me a big thing, right? And
Yes.
so, and so, for me, when I talk about rules and boundaries, I say a rule is punitive. The speed
Mm-hmm.
limit is 25 miles an hour. You go 30, I'm going to punish you by giving you a speeding ticket.
Mhm.
A boundary is what we need to feel safe in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I I was in a traumatic accident as a kid when someone was speeding. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you want to speed, I'm not going to punish you. I'm just going to take an Uber to the event. That's
Absolutely.
my boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the rule is if you go 30 miles an hour, I'm going to punish you. If you speed in the car with me, I'm going to break up with you. That's a rule. It's punitive. But if I say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
my boundary is I don't ride in cars with people that speed, that's my boundary. That's what keeps me safe.
Yes.
And so it's up to me to maintain that boundary now. What it'll look like is like, come on, baby, you can ride in the car with me. I'll get you there safe. Hmm. So that's a press up against my boundary.
Mhm.
And then as soon as I say, okay, as soon as I lean into shame and guilt, I'll
Mm-hmm.
ride in the car with you. And we get in the car and you're doing mock Jesus to the concert. And by the time we get there, I'm afraid, I'm terrified, I'm not the person that I was before I got into that car.
Absolutely.
That's me leaning into shame and guilt and me not upholding my boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how I teach this to my couples in
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think that's a great analogy to really help sift that out because when there's a rule, there's also like a control factor, right? And that's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing. Like,
Mhm.
if I'm setting a rule, I'm trying to control your behavior. If I set a
Yes.
boundary, I'm in control.
Hmm. of myself,
of my,
right?
yes, I
Yeah,
determine whether I get in the car or not.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Rule: you like this girl's picture on Instagram. My rule is you got to get rid of all of your Instagrams, all of your female friends, all of that,
Mhm.
or I'm going to leave you. That's a rule.
Right.
Boundary: I've been cheated on by partners that have um, followed other, that have slid into other people's DMs, and so that doesn't make me feel safe. If that's what you do, then good on you. But I have to step away from this relationship to protect myself.
Yes,
That's a boundary.
yes, yes. Ooh,
Love it. Yes.
I'm so excited. This is just the first question. So excited. Okay. How do we know? How do we know we're ready to date? And I asked this question because I was posting for this, advertising for this live, and someone commented, if you have to go to therapy or a relationship coach, you're not ready to date. And I had some responses. I got a little activated when that comment came on the post, and I said, I'm just going to have this comment be a part of the discussion for us to really talk about it, because we know commenting back and forth, no one really hears that, and so to really have a clear conversation about this idea, because I really feel like it's prevalent. Like, you have to be completely healed in order to be in a relationship or in order to start dating somebody. And I've been a therapist for a while now. I call it the people business. I've been in the people business for a very long time, and a completely healed person, what I still want to know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like. So how do we know when we're ready to date? And do you need to is it okay to be with a therapist in a relationship or a relationship coach if you're in a relationship or dating? Like, is that a problem?
No, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's a benefit, especially if, again, we talked about one of our biggest barriers with dating is not having proper mentorship, not
Mm,
having proper examples or healthy examples of relationships. And a relationship coach and therapist can kind of help you with that. They can help you, deal with this. You may be writing a narrative here, so let's
mhm.
see if this is a narrative that's being written or if this is really happening. They're just helping you again with accountability, helping you see things clearly, helping supporting you through the process, helping you see where, what, we may have some areas that we can work on.
Mhm.
I've had people, I am a fan of the dating list, and I automatically get people say, no, I don't like dating lists. They're ridiculous. Well, no, if you use your dating list properly and you are able to really write down what you want, then it could be a helpful tool. So
Yeah.
I'll have someone who says, I don't care. I just need this person to have one thing, right? But then you go through who they've been dating. And then I say, well, did they have that one thing? And they'll say, yes. Okay, so what was missing for those relationships? Why couldn't it move forward? And then you get a laundry list of all of the other issues, all the other concerns. So as a dating coach, I just kind of help you put those pieces together, see clearly. I call it dating healthy. Where you can date in a healthy, safe manner. You learn to critically think. You learn to stick to your non negotiables versus kind of going strictly off your preferences, because sometimes we use the preference side of the list more than we do the non-negotiable, and then you wonder why we're here. We're
Yes.
here because 6 foot was more important than integrity. So you have to learn what is important to you. So I believe everybody, we all need help. We all need help.
Yes. Yes to all of that. As you can tell. Go ahead, Kelvin.
I call it the three sixes: 6 feet, six figures, and a 6 inch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you for saying that, Kelvin. I do, because I'm like, six figures. A brother gotta have 6 figures.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I completely agree. Those non-negotiables are very important, and I do believe seeing a therapist or relationship coach is very vital into helping us prepare to date, because what we're really doing is building a self-independence, leaning on ourselves. I truly believe in, this was back before the Will Smith smack when Will Smith said there's nothing he can do to make Jada happy. He was absolutely right. It's
Absolutely.
it's up to ourselves to make ourselves happy. And when we can enter into a relationship and we can say, hey, I don't need you to be a part of my journey, but I would love if you shared this journey with me.
Mhm.
That's the important piece. And
Mhm.
maybe you're not completely healed, like you said before, Alicia. Who is?
Right.
Right? But if you're you're taking that journey and we're sharing this journey together, we're learning new things, and we can say, oh, well, I think we're so afraid of losing our people
Mm,
that we stay in relationships that are not really healthy for us. But if we can get to the point of our relationship, it's like, hey, this was a great chapter. This was amazing. I'm glad we shared this journey together, but now it may be time for us to go our separate ways. If we
mhm.
start to come into our dating reality with that mentality, I think it'll be a little bit easier for us to start dating a whole spectrum of
Mm.
people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have many clients that I am kind of, my unofficial title is like dating coach in their life as they're
Mhm.
navigating their stuff that they're finding out about themselves. Like, oh, I didn't know that was a big deal for me. Now that I was in this relationship, now I know, yes, this is a big deal. I need this. And so if that person isn't going to respect that request, then I need to exit. I need to exit stage left, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Mhm.
And then work through the bumps and bruises of saying, ending the relationship, because that is a process that does activate some things, especially if you've experienced abandonment or rejection, if you've never been chosen, and or there's a little part in you that wasn't chosen, that's going to be activated, and sometimes that's what prevents these relationships from ending when they need to. And so having a therapist and a relationship coach can be very helpful. Shame, it's not a shameless plug or shameful plug, however you want to say it. It can be very helpful
Mhm.
because it is navigating relationships, just as Sonia was saying, it's a mirror. And we
Mhm.
have to see ourselves and see ourselves clearly. Sometimes our experiences puts a lot of fog in our eyes, and we don't really see ourselves clearly in our relationships. So because I can keep going on that.
No,
But
but
Sonia,
it's
you had
very
something?
true. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, no, that's very true, and
Yeah.
sometimes you see that you're not ready yet. You get
Mm-hmm.
out and you start dating and you say, "You know what? I'm really not ready. I really
Mm-hmm.
do need to address this."
Yeah.
Or you may feel like because I do feel like you can date for different reasons. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's important to date with intention. And sometimes, like I will tell you, sometimes I date purely for a social experiment. Sometimes I'm dating for companionship.
Mm-hmm.
And then you may be dating for marriage. So you may think I'm ready to get out here, I'm ready to get married, and you realize, you know what? No, I want to pursue my purpose more, and maybe companionship is okay. It's an opportunity to learn. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Taking the pressure off.
Mhm.
Taking the pressure off, and just learning about yourself. Just learning. Just learning.
Mhm.
So we diving deep. Uh, this next question of the generational trauma that we have experienced, our people, um, how do you believe that impacts our dating, and our interacting with others, our unique experience in this country? Uh,
Mhm.
how does that impact our dating world?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I've been speaking for go ahead.
I think it shows up in a lot of different ways, especially with the trauma of body autonomy,
Mhm.
Oof.
and owning who we are as people, as individuals. When we go into dating, we use this word of like, you're mine, that's mine. And
Mhm.
that mentality from generational trauma has created this space where we're not even in charge of our own sexuality anymore. As a
Mm.
sex therapist, I hear
Mhm.
people say, "Well, my partner was masturbating without me." That's why are you doing that without me? You don't have autonomy over your body. You can't masturbate. You can't enjoy self pleasure because that's mine. You're supposed to share that with me. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, they don't.
Not at all.
This is their this is their pleasure. This is how they take care of themselves.
Mhm.
But through this dynamic that we've gone through in this country and the Black experience is that we no longer own our bodies.
Mm.
You are mine, I am yours, and that's the way it's going to be.
Mm.
So that's just part of it.
Mhm.
Um, I think the other part is our religious structures that contribute to this as well. I think for women to date, if you're dating multiple men, that's
Mhm.
outside of the purview of the church, right? You're Jezebel, you're all these other names.
Mhm.
But we give men passes in this because that's what a man does. And so I think that's very detrimental to ourselves. Too. We have a very colonized way of thinking about relationships and marriage and sex that we've assimilated into our culture.
Mhm. It's very color purple esque,
Very much so.
which is very sad to say.
Mhm.
It's because I mean that story was in the early 1900s, and we are in 2022, and we're still these thoughts are still very prevalent, very prevalent. Yeah, go ahead, Sonia.
And I agree, and I'll add that there's this component of what we used to love was taken from us, right? So you have my
Mm.
grandparents themselves were sharecroppers. My grandmother was taken out of the home at 8 years old to work the fields, and she left the South because she didn't want that for her children, right? So there is this um I have to protect you, and I can't let anyone know that I love you, because if they know that you mean something to me in order to hurt me or control me, they're going to dominate you. But what that is kind of equated to is this lack of communication amongst one another, this lack of intimacy. People don't know how to hug. Just hugging for some people is very challenging. Just showing emotion and feelings and sharing thoughts and things of that sort, because we've been taught that it's a weakness to express yourself, to display love, to be intimate. So there's a huge block there, and then there's the whole thought process that it you will be punished by the person that you love if you show them that you love them. you know
Mm.
so if I show you this, I'm showing you my weakness. This is my kryptonite, and now you're going to punish me and hurt me, where that's not the truth. Again, it's another narrative that's been written. So, yeah, unfortunately, we've been made to believe that. And then we can't forget about the crack era, and the crack era left a lot of children raising themselves, and there's been a lack of nurturing, a lack of compassion, and thus, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I don't think there's any studies done on it. It has made it so that people don't have empathy because no one knows what that is like. So now you can't be empathetic towards your partner, which is why everybody's a narcissist. Some people tell it, but I know. I'm like, please don't call that person. They're not a narcissist. But there is this lack of empathy. People do disassociate to protect themselves. Like, there's all of these components that
Absolutely.
go along with it, and it makes it hard and difficult to be in a relationship because you don't know how to relate to another.
Yeah. Or if you're empathetic, you're weak or you're
Yeah.
a simp.
I can't stand that word. Oh, I can't
I
stand
love
that
the
Uh-huh.
word.
simp. Simp away. Simp on me,
Yeah.
honey.
You can't confess your love for a woman. If you do that, you're a simp. What is
Yeah.
happening?
Oh
Um,
man.
to go even for, I feel like because we have been dehumanized,
Yeah.
uh,
Mm.
and to be property, I feel we have also dehumanized each other, and it does put in a place where, like both of you were saying, vulnerability becomes something that is highly uncomfortable and very almost close to, it feels like close to impossible, because everybody has their protectors up. I did a video of like, is there pee in the dating pool? Because I just kept hearing people say this, and I say, yes, there is. There's protection in the dating pool, and there's pain in the dating pool. That's the pee that's in the dating pool, because when you feel the pain, you have to protect yourself, and when you're meeting another person with protection, you don't see each other. You just see the protector. You just see, I'm matching energy, or I'm a ghost you. All the like all these. I'm not going to spend, a certain amount of money on a woman because then she's going to use me. So all these different layers of protection that we put on gets in the way of us just connecting with each other and seeing each other as human beings with feelings that matter. Black women have feelings that matter. Black men have feelings that matter. And it's sad to say that on the internet could get you pummeled by either party, but it's a fact. It's a true fact. And that's why I'm very grateful to see Black men in fields frolicking on TikTok, because it's like they need to let that veil down and just experience joy. Just experience joy. I think about even my experience. I think the only two emotions I've ever seen my father experience was anger and maybe he was like contentment. I'll say contentment. Like he would have moments because he was in church. He would have moments where he would have gratitude, but really the only two that I was like contentment. Like, oh, it was a good day. I made some money. I did. I made some money, so I'm good. Or, and so it's like to have a Black man to take all that down and just experience joy and not be judged for it.
Yeah.
Not be judged for it. I refuse to share any memes that's got Michael Jordan crying, Will Smith crying. It's just, to me, it's dehumanizing our pain, and the same for any Black woman crying, right? I think we need to really sit with the fact that we are human beings so that we can connect with each other. We can connect.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. As you can tell, that was some passionate.
Oh yeah.
That was a passionate moment. So, okay, so how do we do this? Because Brene Brown and Tori, what is her name? The Me Too movement, the person who did the Me Too movement, I can't remember her last name, but they did a book together about stories of people of color, specifically Black people, who were in spaces and their journey with being vulnerable, and how being vulnerable as a Black person could really mean you're in the end of your life. It could be as a threat. Like, we don't do that here, because if you do that, weakness, that's how you get shot, or that's how you you put your walls down. So how vulnerability is something that we're taught is something that could either get you killed or judged. And so how do we create a safe space in our relationships for each other to be vulnerable, to feel safe? We talked about boundaries a little bit, about safety, but how do we create a space where we can have feelings and connect with each other?
So the reason why a lot of people come see me in therapy is because I am staunch on communication. That's my big thing. And so when I'm talking about communication, I'll just allude, I was in the military before. One thing that the military does really well, since it's incorporating a lot of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, is they teach you how to speak one language. We learn the phonetic alphabet. We learn all of the acronyms for everything under the sun in the military. And for your viewers that are watching, if I say 670-1 or if I say DD-214, they're going to smile and be like, I know what that is.
I know
right?
DD-214.
And so when I get my couples in, I teach them to speak, learn
Mhm.
how to speak one language, and that is how we feel emotionally.
Mhm.
Because we tend to look at behaviors and say, that's a true representation of what you think of me. And no, it's not. There are
Right.
cheaters that are madly in love with their partners,
Mhm. Absolutely. Speak
and it
on it.
has nothing to do with them. And so we don't sit down and talk about what was your emotion under there. So the
Mhm.
older we get, the more sophisticated we get, the more we try to qualify our thoughts with the statement, I feel.
Mhm.
I feel like you don't like me.
Mhm.
My response is, "What do you mean I don't like you? I cooked you breakfast, I washed your clothes, I did all this for you. I wouldn't do that for nobody I like." Then we walk away not being heard because all I did was state a thought. That's a
Mhm.
thought. I
Mhm.
feel like you don't like me as a thought, and I can
Mhm.
argue that thought. But your inarguable truth is, I feel lonely when we don't spend time together.
Yeah, that part.
I can't argue your loneliness. That's
Mhm.
yours. That's your experience. And so when we start speaking to our emotions on that one language, having
Mhm.
that one amplified language that we start our conversations with, I feel, and follow it up by an emotion, then we can start getting on the same page. Because
Mhm.
now we understand our partners a little bit better. I will never know what it's like to be an African American woman.
Right.
Mhm.
I will never know what that is. But if you came up to me and said, "Hey, I feel sad," I know what it is to feel sad.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can connect with you on that.
Mhm.
And so that's how I tend to get people on that one language to help that healing process.
Mm. Very
Mhm.
good. Very good. Connecting the feelings so that there's a universal understanding,
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
a universal understanding, and there's clarity so that they're less defensive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've so much we when people understand that our emotions aren't positive or negative, we have movies about it. Oh, anger is a negative emotion, happiness is a positive emotion. No, emotions just are. It's your behaviors that are negative or positive, not your emotions. So if I'm angry, I
Mhm.
have a whole lot of choices of what I can do with that anger. I can project it on you, I can make you feel it, and that would be a negative behavior. But
Mhm.
if I use my anger, I say, hey, babe, you know what? I'm feeling angry right now. Can we talk about this together? My
Mhm.
anger. This ain't yours. You ain't got to feel that way. And so when we learn this space, then we can really, when we really truly understand that our emotions aren't negative or positive, that they just are,
Mhm.
man, that opens up so much of our communication.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Go ahead, Sonia.
Yes, that is good. That's good talking right there.
I know. I'm like,
And I,
oh.
ooh. And I agree. I also think like trust. There needs to be a place, a
Mhm.
space of trust. Like, do you really give your partner a trust? So if they say something to you, do you repeat what they said to someone else? Do you repeat it to them in anger or to use against them as a weapon? Do you weaponize
Yes.
what they've trusted you with? Trust is important. You being vulnerable yourself allows your partner to feel like, okay, this is a place where I could be vulnerable as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
Respect. I can tell you how many times I've had people talk to me and they've been completely disrespectful to their mate and they don't understand why their partner doesn't feel safe coming to express themselves. You've
Mhm.
disrespected them. You've disrespected the relationship or you've disrespected them. I know we're not talking about shows. This is just a little off, but how Lindsay handled Mark, she couldn't see how, hey, he can't
Mhm.
open up to you and be vulnerable to you because you disrespect him, right? And we
Absolutely.
all know, especially with men, respect is equivalent to love.
That's
So
their
there's
language.
that's their
Mhm.
language, and it goes both ways. But oftentimes, I will work with some women, and they are blatantly disrespectful, and they don't understand why this person will pick up the phone and call their mother, their friend, or whomever regarding issues. They can't be vulnerable with you because you've disrespected them and you don't offer them a place of trust. Being a good listener, as Calvin said, communication is a key. But sometimes we don't listen. We listen to respond, but we're not listening to understand. We're not listening for compassion. We're not having an empathetic ear or a sympathetic ear. There's nothing there. There's just I'm ready to box. So as soon as you say what I don't want you to say or what I think you're saying, because the person could be saying something completely different, then it's an
Yes.
opportunity for a fight when really it isn't. Just hear what they're saying and see how you can address that. So I think those and of course not belittling your partner and things of that sort, being respectful. It goes back to respect and trust and you yourself being vulnerable, in my opinion, and being, of course, great communication.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. If it's a big deal to them, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
If it's a big deal to them, it's a big deal.
it's a big
Hmm.
deal.
That generous listening part, listening to listen, listening to be present, is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm working with folks, I'm like, you're listening, but if you have an emotion that comes up, and if it becomes flooding and too much, take an adult timeout. It's okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you just say, hey, I can't be the listener that you need right now because of my own stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's shelve this for an hour so I can get my stuff together and I can come back and be that generous listener.
Yes.
Hmm.
And then when we're listening, we're just taking on the aspect of this isn't about me. This is about the person speaking.
Yes.
This is how they feel.
Yes.
I tell clients, it's like if my partner comes in and she has a bad day at work and she's angry and I'm listening to that and I just won the lottery, the Powerball,
Mm-hmm.
why am I trying to own her emotions? It doesn't make
Right.
sense for both of us to be angry because I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy. This is my joy, but I'm going to listen and validate her anger. And then when she's done, I'm going to be like, hey, babe, I'm excited. I just won the Powerball.
And I'm gonna be excited too.
We
Yeah.
all about to be
Yeah.
excited. You know what?
Yeah.
Whatever happens, forget
Yeah.
about it.
Listen.
Yeah. And that's
So
oh,
the what? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kelvin. You were.
oh, it's just but that's just a piece, the part of emotional liberation. And
Mm,
that is your emotions are your emotions, mine are mine. I don't have to
mm,
own them. And if you're angry, that doesn't mean that I have to be angry or I have to become defensive. This is your anger. Let me sit here and help you walk through that journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So all of what I'm hearing with both of you is that we need some emotional intelligence to navigate this.
Yes.
Because I need to be aware of what activates me, or when I need to know when I'm activated. Because like when and that I use activated because I feel like we use triggered a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so activated, when something evokes an emotion, you feel it in your body. It's like you feel in your chest, your stomach. You're like, oh, they're saying this, and this is, you're something has been awakened. And so to be aware of that, to know that, so that when you are trying to have a listening ear, and then your protectors kind of know that your protectors are trying to come up to say, hey, I won the Powerball, lady, like, to bring that up, then we need to take a minute, take that
Mm-hmm.
adult time out that Kevin was talking about. So have that emotional intelligence or awareness to say, okay, I need to take a beat, or I'm not in the space to hear, and I need to know actually too how to handle that, like what to do with my feelings when they are escalated, how to take care of myself, to know
Mm-hmm.
how to take care of myself and nurture myself, so that that doesn't become my partner's responsibility. Not saying that they don't support, but that doesn't become their sole responsibility, and that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because a lot of people. Oh, I'm sorry, Calvin. Go ahead, honey.
Oh, no, no, go ahead.
Because a lot of people feel like their partner is responsible for everything, and if they don't make their anger feel better, then you don't love me.
Mm.
And it's like, no, but this is you. They may not feel the same way. There's been plenty of times someone we all live life through our own lens based on our own
Mhm.
experiences. I like to say we are some
Absolutely.
of our own experiences. And so
Mm-hmm.
for you, that incident may be something that's huge. For me, I may just see it, oh, that's a learning opportunity. Or I don't view it as a big deal. But the key is not to, as we said, we validate our partner. So we want to validate them. We don't want to talk down on them. We don't want to disregard their feelings. We want them to know they've been seen and heard. But at the same time, like you guys were saying, it's not time for you to own that. And I think when we go back and we talk about boundaries and understanding, that's one of the problems we have. We want everyone to feel how we feel, think how we think, and that makes it that makes everything okay. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not okay, and you disrespect yourself and
Yeah.
your partner in that process.
Yeah, Sonny, you just touched on like a whole bunch of stuff right there. It's
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I enjoy Brene Brown. I
Hmm.
disagree with her on one thing because she has
Hmm.
this cartoon and I don't know if you've seen the empathy cartoon where you have to get down in the hold with your partner. And I don't believe that. I believe
Neither
our
do I.
jobs as a partner is to offer support to our partner. If we get down in the ditch with our partner, then there's two people down in that ditch. But what
That's
we
it.
do is
That's
we
it.
throw down a ladder.
Mhm.
Hey, now it's your choice. This ladder is of support. It's your choice to make this journey
Mhm.
of moving to
Hmm.
a different state. My job is
Hmm.
to support, not to own. The other thing that you put on was this, it goes back to that theme when we're talking about trauma and ownership and autonomy. Our partners cannot be everything for us. So, as we're dating in the Black community, we're looking for perfection. We want our mom, our dad, our uncle, brother, and cousin. We want you to be all of that for us. And we
Mhm.
want you to hold a responsibility of
Um,
managing my emotions. That is your job. And if you don't show up to do that, then something's wrong with you. You're the wrong partner for me. When that's the heaviest thing you can ever ask anyone is to be everything for you. I can't even make myself happy sometimes. You want me to make you happy? And yeah, so those are the two things, but you jumped on a lot of stuff.
Ooh-wee. Go ahead, Sonia. I'm sitting here
no,
bubbling.
I'm enjoying too. I'm doing
Oh,
the same.
I just what bubbled up for me was expectation. Even when you were talking, Sonia, but even to and Kevin, just to the high expectations that we sometimes place upon people because what really where our expectation comes from in relationships is where our needs weren't met previously, right? And so we have that you're going to be the magic one. You're going to be the magic one to love me like I've never been loved before, which really is my responsibility, right? To do. I'm the one who's supposed to love me like I've never been loved before, and
Mhm.
my partner is supposed to be there to love me in the way that they want to love me, and also in the way that respects my boundaries, right? So we can connect in that way, but they're not supposed to be the fixer of all the things that were not unchecked or were not checked in our journey throughout our lives. And then I think I agree with you with the Brene Brown cartoon. I feel like we don't have a great understanding of what empathy is versus what compassion is. And we really preach empathy, but empathy can sometimes make you feel like you have to take care of somebody after you shared your stuff because now they're feeling your stuff and you and then you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry I told you that I was struggling, even though I'm struggling, now I'm taking care of you." Versus compassion is, like he said, having that letter and say, okay, come on up, and being present with that person while they're in their pain, but not feeling their pain for them. And so that's a difference. But yes, who?
Yeah, I tell a lot of people, especially, a lot of people say they're empaths. I'm like, I don't, sometimes they are. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if you are. But I do say that, you can acknowledge someone's situation. You can acknowledge their pain. You can acknowledge it, but you don't own it. That isn't your cross to bear, right? And a lot of times we want to be superheroes and we feel like if I jump out there, you gonna know I love you because I'm about to carry all of this weight for you. But what about you? And
Mm-hmm.
now both of you guys are weighed down. Now both of you guys are having these struggles, and you're now there's resentment that takes place because I have carried all of this for you. And as soon as that one person doesn't do the same, as soon as you don't carry my baggage for me, then there's more conflict again, resentment sets in and things like that. So no, hold a space for your partner, but you don't have to you don't carry the load.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great saying I heard is that we choose resentment over shame and guilt. Shame and
Mhm.
guilt is so powerful that if I'm not that person for you, if I don't step out of my zone, if I drop my boundaries, I'm dropping my boundaries because I feel ashamed for upholding my boundaries. I feel guilt for upholding my boundaries. I'm choosing resentment because we're going to experience resentment when we
Oh yeah,
choose to let down our boundaries. So I'm choosing resentment over shame and guilt. And
Mhm.
resentment is the relationship killer.
Absolutely, 100%.
Hmm.
And then we use this word manipulation
Hmm.
because somebody is communicating to you with emotion because you have difficulty, you experience shame and guilt for setting a boundary, and so you
Hmm.
view their emotion as manipulation when they're just communicating with emotion, right? And
Exactly.
because you have that's your stuff and you're
Hmm.
putting your stuff onto them, and so whew, we I think there's a lot for us to learn. That's really what a lot for us to learn. One about what a safe space looks like. How can we continue to learn to create a safe space within ourselves and for whoever we're connecting with, that is key, and that means having the emotional intelligence to navigate that means knowing that you are not responsible for your partner's feelings.
Mhm.
That means learning to listen and learning skills to communicate how you are feeling in a way that does not cause them to be defensive, right? And then when you notice your own protectors coming up, that you can say, "Hey, we're gonna have a timeout, and we'll revisit this at a later
Mhm.
date when I'm able to hear you and really take in what you're saying because it's important to me." It's because it's important to me. I think that's the part. If I'm taking in what you're saying and it's becoming too much, I take a pause because I want to be in the right state of mind to hear your feelings because they're so valuable to me. And I
Mhm.
don't want to be in a space where I dismiss or diminish your feelings about how we're showing up in this relationship together. And so I think that really can, if it's communicated that way, it's not shown as like feel like a brush off, right? Or a push off, but it's like I want to hear you. I want to hear you and I want to attend to you. Go ahead,
Mhm.
Sonia. Get something.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just agreeing because no,
Okay.
it's true. It's very true. Just that acknowledgement should be it is important.
It's so big. It's so big because
Mhm.
validation, I feel less of what we have is imposter syndrome. More of what we have is invalidation syndrome. And we have to be able to say, even if there's a part of us that feels like, you can brush that off. No, it's a big deal to you. It's a big deal.
Mhm.
It's a big deal to you. It's a big deal. So let's talk about sex. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about it in our culture. We definitely don't talk about it in the Black family. And so, how do we have healthy sexual relationships? How do we create healthy spaces for sexual relationships where boundaries are respected, bodies are respected? And Kelvin talked about a little bit where we have autonomy and we have agency over our bodies. How do we do that? What does that look like?
I think it starts with comprehensive sex education, and that sex education is to include pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think some of the misogyny and patriarchy has done a huge damage to how both men and women see sexuality. The
Mm-hmm.
number one thing, and one of the main things you hear, oh, he's a trash lover because he didn't make me orgasm. Well, no.
Mhm.
Your orgasm is your responsibility. Our job is to support your orgasm, to
Yeah.
support your pleasure. Maybe you don't want to orgasm, but maybe you want to experience pleasure. So it's my job to support that. So how do we get to that place? And I catch a lot of heat for this, but I do tell both my men and women that it's your job to know your own body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so as soon as I know my body, I can communicate to my partners like, oh, this is pleasurable to me. I like this type of touch. And now it's my job as a partner is to support your avenue of pleasure.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't want to orgasm. Maybe if you're just kissing me on my neck, that's erotic, that's pleasurable, and ooh, that feels good. All right. Because
Mhm.
I communicated that that's what I want. Just like when I'm talking with women, so many folks don't know where their clitoris is or different ways that they can experience orgasm.
Yeah.
And they expect our men to know that. And so, what message do we get as men? I have to be the best lover. So, I come into our sexual encounter and I'm going to use what I learned off of porn because that's the only people that talk to me about sex. And I'm going to do the jackhammer move where my penis cannot atomically touch your clitoris. And I do this move. And if you don't orgasm, then that's a threat to my manhood. And so what do
Shame.
women do? Fake orgasms because I don't want to hurt his feelings. No, don't fake an orgasm. Talk. Sit down. Talk about sex. Talk about pleasure. The
Mhm.
the most important P word we have in sex is pleasure.
Mm,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. I that they did a reboot of the Wonder Years, and it's with a black family, which is amazing. Don Cheadle is the narrator, and they had an episode where the son found pornography and automatically assumed that it was the dad's magazines. And mom said, "No, they're mine." And she had a talk with him about sex from the female perspective. And I said, "Oh, this is a powerful episode. So many people I feel need to see this to know." I think sometimes either there's no conversation or men only hear from other men, so then like the same information is just being passed on and passed on, and men don't get to hear the woman's perspective of the sexual experience, what consent is, what does feel good, what does not feel, what feels respectful, what does not feel respectful, how to approach a woman, all of that from the woman's perspective so that they can be able to respect their partner and create a safe space to explore pleasure together. So yes, absolutely. We need to talk more. We need to talk more. But yes, Sonia.
Yes. And I think having a healthy relationship, with yourself, as Calvin stated, and with your partner, having that vulnerability, having confidence in yourself,
Mhm.
knowing that you deserve pleasure, you deserve an
Mm.
orgasm, clitoral and vaginal, in whatever way you can have one, you deserve it. And I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of women feel like they should. They feel like sex is a duty. And it
Mm.
isn't a duty. Your body is for pleasure as well. Like you have pleasure spots for a reason, and it's okay to explore those. And I think feeling comfortable enough to have those conversations and just how to have that conversation. I think sometimes people don't know how, or they pick the most inopportune time, or they say it harshly. So instead of saying, "You don't make me come," say, "You know what, love? I want to find a way to have this ultimate orgasm. Like, can we explore that?" And that I tell ladies, hey, that one of the best gifts you can ever get a man that really cares about you is your orgasm. So if you help him help you, because your mind has to be there, has to be trust there. You have to have an
Yeah.
open mind. You have to be a student. You have to be a teacher. His last lover kissing may have been all she needed, whereas you completely different. You need kissing, touch, verbal stimulation. Like there's a lot that goes along with that.
Yeah.
So being honest with yourself about what you want, being honest with your partner about what you want, being able to go there. You have to be willing to be free and go there. is very important. And, again, having just like a healthy environment to have those conversations and know that you deserve it. We don't want to feel that way, but you do. You deserve
Mhm.
pleasure. And sex should be pleasurable for you as well.
Mhm.
I'm a
Mhm.
huge component of that. Don't get me started. Listen, you shouldn't be out here having sex, not having an orgasm. And don't lie about it
Yeah,
either.
No,
yeah,
no.
No
yeah,
false
yeah,
claims.
yeah. I completely agree. And I don't like um, demonizing pornography as a genre for sex education. I don't think it's a great educational tool in teaching healthy relationships. However, um, dating while black and black sexuality, if we want to kind of guide ourselves to looking at more feminist pornography, and
Mhm.
there are some amazing feminist
Hmm.
porn producers out there like Shine Louise Hutton. She owns Pink and White Productions, and when
Mhm.
you're looking at more of the feminist pornography, they're celebrating different ethnicities, people that look like us. They're
Mhm.
celebrating people with different body shapes.
Hmm.
They're paying their workers equal amount of salary. We're leaving body autonomy and more feminist porn because now you have a choice. Do I want to wear protection or not wear protection in this porn scene? Right. And so we have all these things that are coming up in the pornography industry that are creating a safe space for couples to explore
Mhm.
Mhm.
and to look at different ways that they may want to be encouraged to explore different ways of pleasure.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I don't want to demonize it on a whole, but we do encourage a lot of shame and guilt in our culture, especially the black culture about around sex. We can rap about it, sing about it all day, but when it comes to sitting down and talking to our partners and saying, baby, I like my nipples played with.
Mhm.
To get a man to say that, yeah. Right? Because that's
Right.
not
Mm.
manly, right?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Or to say, hey, I'm connected with my sexuality. And a lot of people, things they hear is like, and I've heard this a few times. Hey, what's your relationship to your sexuality? I'm not gay. Your sexuality has nothing to do with your sexual orientation.
Mhm.
And so we have to drop some of this super mask energy and just lean into, who am I as a sexual being? How do
Mhm.
I derive pleasure? What's my connection? The messages that I've received as a human being about sexuality, what messages are good, which messages benefited me, and which ones I don't really need anymore.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
Mhm.
how can I open up pathways to pleasure?
absolutely. And I have men who will come to me and say, "My woman doesn't orgasm," right? And the first thing I ask them, "Well, have you talked to her about it?" And a lot of times they haven't even had that conversation to begin with. So they'll come seeking help, you know, versus going to the person saying, "Hey, I need to be touched this way, or I notice you're not having an orgasm. Is there something?" See, me too, beautifully seen. My
Yes.
business. So I
Yes.
so it's like it's just about, again, going back to that conversation, but your that intimacy needs to be there where you two can sit and connect. And then there is the
Mhm.
whole Calvin touched on a little bit, like the shame. Sh- you shouldn't be ashamed of your body. And a lot of times we're taught that as women, if you own your body, if you own the beauty of your body, then that makes you basically a bad girl. You're not a good church girl if you
Mhm.
feel a way about your body. But the thing is, your body is beautiful. I believe sex is an experience that should be experienced by both partners
Mhm.
openly and honestly and safely, in a healthy manner. And
Yeah.
so it's okay to seek help outside of your relationship, but first include your partner. Go there first and see, what am I not doing wrong? And be okay with having that conversation without it being one as an attack. It's not an attack. We're trying to figure this out. Let's try to figure
Mhm.
this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As sex therapists, we try to really move people into being sex positive. And
Mhm.
so we don't attack a lot of things. We do understand that a lot of things under the sun, there's nothing sexually that we're doing in our bedroom that somebody ain't already tried.
Right.
And so we make it normal. We try to make it a healthy space for us to be vulnerable and to talk about things that we like.
Right.
Um, we teach folks to talk about fantasies. That's a big topic, right?
Absolutely.
But sometimes we think we're so stuck on this thought that back to the autonomy piece, we get so stuck on the thought that if my partner fantasizes about a threesome, that means he doesn't want me. He wants everybody else. No, this is just the most popular fantasy for men. The most popular fantasy for women is the consent non-consent. I want my man to be dominant and in charge in the bedroom, and I want him to kind of tussle a little bit in the bedroom, right? That doesn't mean I want you to abuse me in the bedroom. That just means that's my fantasy. And so we try to own people's fantasies as well. We try to own our partner's sexuality all the way to the point of where I own that orgasm. I own this. I own that. No, we have to get accustomed to us sitting down and saying, hey, like you said earlier, Sonia, how do you want to be pleasured? I'm interested in that. I
Right.
get a lot of Black men that are afraid to go into toy stores,
Hmm.
that are afraid to grab toys and play with them because they think it shrinks their manhood or their ability to perform in the bedroom. And that's not the case. This is just a fun space where we can explore together as we grow together as a couple.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a character assassination. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't. It doesn't have to be um, a knock against you just to have a conversation to explore each other's body and to explore what works for you. And hey, if you don't know, then would you like a partner to work through this, or would you
Mhm.
like to have the time to space to explore for yourself? I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful beautiful thing. Yeah.
One last thing, there is a great website called OMG Yes. So
Mhm.
OMG Yes is a website based off of women's pleasure. They did one of the largest studies ever conducted specifically on women's pleasure, and you can sign up for a membership. It's a one-time $80 fee. If you want the big membership, that's access to everything that they have in there. What I like about it is it really brings in couples and it teaches people how to say, I like this. Oops, I don't like that. Can you move to a different space? It's teaching us how to advocate for our own pleasure
Hmm.
on this
Mhm.
website, and it gives you practicing tips on how to do it.
Mhm.
So I just think it's a fantastic website to dig into.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, and then one tool I utilize is the red light, green light, yellow light, and you guys make a list. What
Mhm.
is a red light? Red light means we're not even going to bring this up for discussion. This is off the books. Yellow light, I don't know. Let's see, let's explore. And then green light is a go. So you definitely be able to communicate in a way that doesn't leave your partner guessing. Or like, is this something that they're gonna like? Is this not?
Or rejection, which is a huge
Yes.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
I keep coming on to my partner and they keep saying no.
yeah.
And mostly a lot of this I hear from women. Like I come on to my partner and they're saying no. Well, man, one of the misconceptions, part of the patriarchal thing again, is that men experience anxiety.
Yeah.
And a lot of men have to have an emotional connection in order for us to even have a sexual connection. But that's not what's put out
Preached.
in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
What it
Mhm.
is like, nope, I'm supposed to touch you, you're supposed to get an erection, and you're supposed to have sex with me right then and there. Well, we just argued for a half an hour about something crazy like birthday cake. And
Hmm.
now you want me to have sex with you. It doesn't work
Mhm.
like that.
No.
And then, so after so many episodes of this, it's like, I keep coming on to my partner. They don't want to have sex with me. Well, because I'm anxious, because I may not be able to get an erection. And if I don't get an erection, That's going to hurt your feelings because you're going to say, hey, what's wrong with me that you can't get an erection with me?
Mm-hmm.
And this plays in another way where if women aren't having vaginal lubrication, oh, you're not getting wet with me, therefore you must not like me. No, she didn't hydrate today. This ain't got nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so we find ourselves in this perpetual role where we think we own each other's sexuality instead of just sitting down and talking about that emotional connection, talking about the anxiety and the emotions that may have a huge influence on our sexuality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's so rich. Okay. I almost don't even want to say these words because I'm so sick of hearing them. The masculine and feminine energy, the alpha male, um, alpha female, like kind of narrative that is out there. I think that there is some validity to the feminine masculine energy. I feel like there needs to be maybe more education surrounding this
Mhm.
conversation. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts about what you feel. What are your thoughts regarding the masculine feminine energy conversation and discussion that we have a lot regarding dating?
I am actually, surprisingly, I'm an advocate of masculine and feminine energy. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like like you said, people are misinformed and they misuse, and there is the terms, and then there's a misconception about what it is and how we all have masculine and feminine energy. It's
Mm-hmm.
just at what moments do you allow one to dominate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in dating, for example, women feminine energy is a energy of receiving. So let's not even use that example. Let's say creative. You're supposed to be creative when dating. You're supposed to be a creative person with your feminine energy. Your masculine energy is logical. You need to be able to logically date, right? Because this needs to make sense for your life, for your future, for your plans. Is this really a good partner for me? So you need to be able to think logically, but you can be creative in how, which is your feminine energy, how you approach these things, how you get the conversation going. You don't
Mm-hmm.
just come out and say, "What are you going to do for me?" There's ways to try to draw that conversation out and
Language.
have it's all about language, but
Mm-hmm.
you can be creative in those ways, or just in creative in the approach on how you're going to get something. I was watching, I can't remember, it was one of the Manosphere's podcast, and he said, have a guy bring you a pen, just ask him to bring you a pen. And that kind of sets the tone for a woman receiving and a man giving. Now, that's a whole nother conversation. But I
I'm
do
like, huh?
think
Okay.
right. And I'm like, that's a whole nother conversation. But when you do think about it, a lot of women show up like, I want to prove myself to you, so I am going to give. And then they wonder why they don't get. Feminine energy is
Mm-hmm.
receptive, so you don't receive. If you come prepared with the mindset of, I'm trying to get to know this person, I'm trying to understand this person, I'm trying to be a student of this person to see if they're a good fit for my life, then you can relax a little bit, let your intuitive energy take over versus a narrative that you've written, but you can also be logical and think through that process. So I'm a fan of both. I think they could be used if people understand them and use them properly. But I just think it's kind of been, misused. The alpha, I stay away from the whole alpha, beta, sigma
I just
conversation just because it's gone a little too far. But I am a big fan of masculine, feminine conversation.
Yeah, I think masculine and feminine energy is fluid. I completely agree with you. It's depending on the mood state and the mind state where you're in. Sometimes we may have people, um, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, more and more, our women are in positions of power at work.
Mhm.
And as they're in positions of powers, CEOs, making business decisions, sometimes that's leaning into some of that mask energy, but then coming home and leaning into that feminine energy is a beautiful thing. And it can be vice versa, where, hey, I've been taking care of this business all day. I want to come home. Sometimes I want to be taken care of, give
Mhm.
me some of that energy. I need it. Or sometimes
Mhm.
I don't even want to just make decisions. And I see this play out in sex therapy as well when we go into dom sub relationships and
Mhm.
also BDSM and kink, because a lot of people don't want to be in that high octane energy for a long time.
Mhm.
And then some people don't want to be in that submissive energy for a long time. They want to be in the dominant position. So I think it's very fluid. As far as the alpha and beta male thing, I don't subscribe to it. I think for me as an example, I don't drive unless I have to. People are like,
Mhm.
who, Calvin, who wear the pants in your house? Well, look, if it comes down to my wife driving and me driving, she driving. That don't make them less of a man.
No, it
I'm
doesn't.
like, I'll jump right in that passenger seat and be like, let's go. Right. But, and
Mhm.
so I don't subscribe all to that of what makes this particular act, these gender roles, make a
Mhm.
man a man. I work from home,
Mhm.
so I cook. It doesn't
Mhm.
make me a beta male. That means this is my role in the home.
Mhm.
So,
I,
Absolutely.
I
Go
feel
ahead,
like
Sam.
people who stay stuck on those conversations don't understand leadership,
mhm,
right? They talk about, I want a man that, or a lead, that can lead. I want a woman that will allow me to lead. But leadership is about building. You have a goal for one in this relationship.
mhm,
You guys have a goal, a plan. You have a vision for your relationship, and then you have individuals, your partner. Um, that partner may have what should have what you don't have. We're talking about strengths and weaknesses here. So I may be weak here. A good leader knows I need someone that can help me with this, or their strength is whatever their strength is, that can help us move forward. And at moments the woman will lead, and at moments the man will lead, and that's okay. It doesn't make anyone too weak, too submissive, too strong, or too dominant, right? When we start
Mhm.
talking about someone being dominated all the time, then that's another issue. That's another conversation. That isn't a healthy environment. But I'm all for submission. And I think I'm all for submission. And I'm not even into, I'm all for submission. I feel like it's
yeah,
about trust. So if I trust you,
Yeah.
I'm
mhm,
giving my life over to you. I'm giving my heart over to you. I'm trusting that you're going to care for me, and this place and space is safe. And so, yes, I know when you make a decision when I need to be included, we're going to make this decision together because you want what's best for our family.
Mhm.
So that's why I
yeah.
don't like the alpha male, because they exclude that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the black households when we're talking about, or even in the dating roles, yeah, there's something great and powerful about our partners being able to lead when it's time to lead and to take charge and to help guide. But part of that guidance is not um, completely suffocating our partners until they're not existent. It's also empowering our partners to be the best that they can be as well. And
Mhm.
so, you know, I'll use myself example. I've been married for 26 years. I met my wife at 16, right? And we had the same goal. I was like, when I first met her, I was like, "Hey, you going to college?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "You going to college?" I was like, "Yeah." Right. So we had a goal. We got pregnant, and we had to figure out how to make that goal happen. And so we
Mhm,
leapfrogged. It didn't make sense for us to both go to college with two little ones. So we
mhm,
leapfrogged and we supported, we cheered each other on, and I didn't feel emasculated by the
mhm.
fact that there was at one point in time, and she laughed at me. She was like, "Hey, you need some lunch money."
She's silly.
I didn't feel emasculated by that because we had one goal, one purpose, and it was um,
One
moving to a
vision.
better face of place for a family. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Amazing. And so submitting to each other, right?
yeah.
That equal
Yeah.
submission. Yes,
Mhm.
amazing. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the alpha male narrative. Um, it tends to sound more like a power struggle.
Mm-hmm.
versus a relationship when that narrative is used. But I do believe that leadership, like Sonia was saying, leadership is truly important, and there can definitely be a way to say, "Oh, you're good with money. I'm not. Okay, so you're taking over the budget. Okay. Oh,
Mhm.
you fall asleep on road trips. You don't. Okay, so you're driving. Okay, so like there's
Mm-hmm.
we assess the skills and we assign who does what, and that's not a ding against anybody. It's not a
Right.
ding. You still come whole, and can complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, how do we? Because last, I want to be mindful of time. How do we remain resilient through the dating journey? A lot of times, what I will see is people making attempts to date, and then they go awry. Pain is felt, and then they say, "Okay, I'm I'm not going to date anymore," or it's just it's this isn't going to work, and so there's like this lack of resiliency that can happen a lot when dating, because of the discouragement, because of the disappointment. And so how do we have resilience through this dating journey and getting to know ourselves and what we like and what we don't like, and how to communicate and how to set boundaries, all these beautiful things we've been talking about, how to have resilience through those things.
I say start with having. I'm a fan of anchor. I always use the term anchor when I'm working with clients. I said you need your anchors. You need great friendships,
Mm-hmm.
great relationship with your higher power,
Mm-hmm.
and a great relationship with yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there may be times when you need to take a break from dating and nurture and foster those relationships so that you have a support system moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
including yourself, because we don't like to hear ourselves. And you need to learn to trust yourself and hear yourself. I'm a fan of dating lists. And on my list, I always tell clients you need your non negotiables,
Mm-hmm.
your negotiables, and your attractions on all level. And then for your non-negotiables, the most important thing is why. Why are these your non-negotiables? That's your anchor. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you focused. So although he's chocolate 6'4" with six figures and 6 inches, you understand that there's so much more that's needed there, and you
And
don't
bald and
base
bearded.
and bald and bearded, right? But you understand that there's so much more, that what you
Mm-hmm.
really need, your core values. You understand why that's important, and this person may not have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
This person may not want to have children. You want to have children. They may not be good with money. You need someone who is very good with money. They may not be a great communication. You need to know your why and what you're looking for. So set your intentions. And again, I say the list helps you with that. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you focused. You go back and look at your whys, and then you can refocus. Learn your lesson. I always tell people, even like in the healing process, what did you learn? Learn to learn your lesson. So you went on a bad date. What did you learn about that person or yourself or the date that can help you moving forward? I
Right.
know a lot of people love online dating. I'm not personally a fan of online dating, but to each his own. This is for my personal life. But one thing I would say is that when, I had a client, the person was moving really fast and things just didn't seem right. And the person got really, really invested. And then when it fell apart, they beat themselves up. And I said, well, allow yourself to have those feelings in this moment, but really look at, what can you learn from this? What would you do differently moving forward? What were the signs, the red flags there that you ignored? Right? Because she explained some of the things. I knew when he said this that he really meant this. And I knew. So the guy basically wasn't divorced. And he was saying he was divorced. But she had signs that he wasn't divorced, and that he was still living with his wife. So, okay, now in moving forward on your next date, your next online experience, when you start having that conversation, you won't put that person in this place, but you'll look for those cues, you'll look for those signs, you'll trust your gut and your intuition and your spirit when you say something's not right here. You know, you've learned from the past. It's just important to learn. So look at dating as a time to do, we call it assessment, and another person calls it gathering data. A couple of other people call it gathering data. Shout out to
Hmm.
Janice. And that is what dating is for.
Yeah.
That's what dating is for. It's a time to gather information. It's a time to learn yourself. So don't get so frustrated that you shut everything and everyone down, because we are humans. Humans need human touch. Humans need compatibility and things of that sort. We need compassion from one another. We need love from one another. And so don't shut it down. Just learn to manage yourself in the situation as well. Learn your lessons from everything. But yeah, stay focused. Take a break when you need one. Use
Yeah.
your anchors for support, and that should get you through. Have
Hmm.
faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Have faith. I think that's a big one. Go ahead, Keller.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything. That big piece is becoming curious, asking questions. And when we go from a strength-based model instead of a deficit model, that negative self-talk tends to end up really harming us in moving forward in dating. Like, I don't have this, I don't have that. And we start going down this line in our head that creates more problems instead of saying, man, what did I learn? Isn't that interesting that it ended on this note? Was it the best thing for this relationship to end? Right? Well, a lot of
Mhm.
people don't like asking that question or talking about that. And then what do I want to see next time in my relationships? And how do I put myself out there? I have a lot of people don't talk about what they actually want in a relationship when they start dating. So out there, I work with a lot of consensually non-monogamous relationships. And when they come in, and I may see folks that have a lot of infidelity in relationships, my number one question is ask them is like, was monogamy discussed at the beginning of the relationship, or was it implied?
Mm-hmm.
Most of them say it's implied. And so we really don't put what we want looking at what we want out there. And so if we're looking for a particular relationship, seek out those relationships, seek out those things what we know is good for us that holds according to our boundaries.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Request, right?
Hmm.
Request. Make the request known. I think it's so important. Also, like you said, thinking about what do you want in a healthy relationship? What does that look like? Where we are very focused on red flags,
Hmm.
and so thinking, what are green flags? How do I
Hmm.
know that this is a nice space? Like I want to hang out with you again. Like let's
Hmm.
go on a third date. Like
Hmm.
what does that look like versus, well, did you see him in that suit, or did you see her in that dress? And that being the activating focus of
Hmm.
how you progress in the relationship, and having resilience. I think too is about trusting yourself, like trusting yourself to be able to experience hurt and be able to move through it,
Hmm.
knowing that hurt isn't something that is going to take you out, right? It's not going to um, be something that you cannot endure. To trust yourself to be able to move through the hurt. And also trust yourself to be able to navigate these relationships. Trust yourself to navigate these relationships. So you brought up the internet dating. I think the thing that is a little, I don't, I, internet dating is, I'm kind of indifferent about it. What I will say is it's so overwhelming, especially how it's formulated. So it's just like, swipe left, swipe right, and it's how can you take in a human being in that way, and how can you take in a human being that way, and then it also creates layers for if people aren't being honest in their communication, like the situation you were talking about, Sonia, then it creates more barriers, right? So more facades that can, and smokes and mirrors and all of that that can be put up, that you don't see the man behind the curtain or the woman behind the curtain because of that, because of internet dating. So you have to be functioning in a place of wisdom, right? When you are making decisions about, is this somebody who I want to connect with further, or I know what they're saying is this, right? Like she knew, I know this. So I'm not going to hold on to the fantasy of something, right? Knowing what I know to be true. Trust yourself to listen to that, which you know to be true. Because then that will save you from the bounce back. You won't fall so hard, when you listen to yourself. Listen to yourself.
Yeah. And you won't waste time. Time is money. Time is the most valuable asset that you have, right? Because you can't get it back.
No.
And you won't waste your time anymore. You'll understand this person isn't for me, and you'll move forward
Mhm.
quickly.
Yes, yes. I appreciate both of you for setting some time to talk about this. I get I get a little excited by talking with like-minded individuals, so I might ask y'all to come back again. Just because I think this is so rich. I really think it's so rich, and it's not, it's not a lot of this happening out, in a public forum, in a place where, they are actually, not tooting our horns, but we are educated. I don't
Mhm.
like the word expert, but I will say we are educated,
Right.
and we are coming from a place where we are valuing the connection. We're valuing the connection, and that's what's most important. Is it's if you there's a safe connection, if there's a safety in your relationship with yourself, then you'll be able to navigate a relationship with someone else and know what that looks like know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so when you have people who have learned and learning and be able to help you navigate it, navigate this. I mean, dating is difficult. It is very difficult. It's very challenging. So having support is not, um, a odd against you. It truly isn't.
Yeah.
We're here to help. So I truly
Yeah.
appreciate both of you for being a part of this conversation. We need more of this. But yes, thank you so much for sharing with us. And please tell our listeners where they can find you. Sonia, you go ahead. Sorry, I almost forgot.
Well, thank you again for having me. I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and I am
Yeah.
looking forward to future conversations. I would love to
Yes.
come back. You can find me here on YouTube at Let the Ladies Speak, and then I have an actual podcast that's also titled Let the Ladies Speak. I'm on all podcast platforms. And then for coaching services, please contact me at www.soniagary.com and book a free or discovery call with me so we can talk about how we can work together and go from there.
Beautiful. And Kelvin, how do
Yeah.
people find you?
Well, thank you for having us once again. I appreciate
Yes.
that. So I have all types of social media, but none of them are professional. If they are professional social media, but you'll just see me goofing around with my family and motorcycles. So you can contact me at kpace37. That's my Instagram. My Facebook is kpace counseling LLC. And my website is www.kpacecounseling.net. So there on my website, you can find some of the blogs, some of the things that we talked about today. It's like how to take an adult time out, and also making scheduled sex interesting sex. So
That is a very big one. I just want to
Yeah.
say that's a very big one, especially for the married couples that I work with. It's a very big one.
yeah.
My husband doesn't want to do scheduled sex, and and so there's definitely a way you can make it fun.
Oh yeah.
So thank you guys so much for sharing,
Thank you.
and we, like I said, we'll have to do this again for sure. But
For sure.
Want you all to take care, and hopefully that you are nurturing a healthy relationship with yourself first, and then also creating safe space for yourself to also create a safe space for someone else to connect with you. And as always, be cool, be calm, be centered. Peace. Bye.